We all love reading, but we're all different. Some of us like the dusty smell of old books. Some of us carry around a Kindle with us. Some of us read trashy romances. Some read Civil War biographies. We all have our own preferences as readers, so here are mine. Hello and welcome. This is Creatively Torn, a channel where I usually talk about books, but sometimes don't. In this video, like I alluded to, I'm going to be talking about my reading preferences. So I'll be just talking about different ways I like to read, whether that's reading physically or digitally, the genres I like to read, how many books I'm reading at one time, things like that. So one of the great debates among readers is the physical book versus the ebook. Some of us like to read ebooks because of their convenience, and some of us are still sticking to physical books for their own reasons as well. So as far as my preferences on this is concerned, I read mainly physically, but not 100%. I do like reading physical books. If I have a preference for format, it would be trade paperbacks, just because they're kind of wide and floppy and usually easy to read. Aside from that, hardcovers are nice as well. They obviously are very durable and look nice on the bookshelf. Honestly, trade versus hardcovers are very similar for me. I could take either one. I don't really have a preference between the two. But behind them would be the mass market paperbacks, which would be my least favorite. They're just hard to open the pages sometimes when they're so small and very narrow. So you have to kind of break open the binding just to read some of the last words on a sentence sometimes. Text is also often very small, and the paper is very low quality as well. So those are just not ideal. The thing that I like about reading physically are just the look and the draw of the book. I can see my copy of the book on the table, and it kind of draw me into wanting to open the book up. I'm also a big fan of covers. I do like a good cover. I do like to appreciate the artwork and the craftsmanship that goes into making a book like that, so it's easy to appreciate that kind of thing when you're looking at a physical book. It's also really gratifying to see the progress you've made when you look at the top of the pages and see your bookmark in the middle there, and you can see how much you have left. As far as ebook is concerned though, I do read those as well, just not as frequently. I don't have a Kindle or any kind of e-reader, so when I do read digitally, it's on my phone, and my phone is old and it needs to be charged like 3 times a day as it is, so reading is not ideal for me. Oftentimes when I want to crack open an ebook, it's at a point where my phone is like at 20%, so I have to go and charge it for an hour, then I have to do something else while I'm waiting for that to recover, so it's not an ideal situation for me. If I did have an ebook or e-reader, that would change everything, I think, because I do like reading ebooks. They're also obviously very convenient. They're easier to handle. I can read them with one hand, which is very convenient if you're eating or something, or if you're like me and when you're at home you have a cat on your lap most of the time. Makes it kind of hard to crack open a real book, so reading an ebook is much easier to get through sometimes. Obviously you can store a lot of books on those as well, so it's also convenience, and if you're away from home then it's easier to carry one of those around than any number of books. So those are all pretty obvious benefits of digital books. Being able to adjust the size of the type and the font and the paper color per se. Those are all very nice as well, as you can customize your reading experience to make it easier for you. So I would say if I did have a Kindle or an e-reader, I would probably read ebooks a lot more than I do currently. But as it is, I'm sticking to physical for the time being. The last format I want to mention, or that I can mention really, is audio. I don't do a lot of audio just because I can't concentrate consistently when I'm listening to an ebook or an audiobook. I know the appeal of an audiobook is that you can read or listen to it while you're doing other things like housework or work or exercise. But most of the time when I'm doing any of those things, there'll be things that distract me, like people coming to talk to me at work, or if I'm doing household chores, I'll have the vacuum running, so that's loud. Or if you've noticed in my videos, there's a very loud furnace that kicks on every once in a while that kind of blasts out anything you hear, so that's very annoying as well. So unless I have earphones in, which are uncomfortable as well, makes audio not as appealing to me. But I do like audiobooks when I listen to them. They're mostly well produced, and they can really add a new dimension to the book you're reading. It can really bring the story to life. So I do want to try reading more of audiobooks as I am able to. I do like to read immersively on occasion, so that's when you read an e-book or a physical book along with the audio. I feel like that helps you experience both ways. And if I can train myself to do that consistently, then maybe I can move on to just audio sometime in the future. Because it would be great if I could just do audio. I would be more productive. I could read a lot more while I'm doing other things. But it's just a thing I need to either try to work on or just accept I'm not going to be good at. So I did mention I like to do immersive reading. The other thing I wanted to try is to do more rereads on audio. So there are a couple books I want to reread at some point, such as Frankenstein, Fahrenheit 451, and a few others that I think would be really good on audio, since I know the story. If I lose focus for a few minutes, it won't be the biggest deal, but I will still get to experience the book on audio. So hopefully that will maybe give me more incentive to do more audiobooks. The next thing I want to talk about is the number of books I'm reading at any given time. It really kind of changes, and it depends on the books that I am reading. Sometimes I'll read just one book at a time. Other times I'll add a second or a third one to the pile. Really depends on the books I'm reading. If I'm not feeling one, I'll maybe add a different one for a change of pace or something. Or if I have some kind of obligation, such as a book being due back to the library soon, and I have one rented, but I haven't started yet, maybe I'll add that one to my current read just to get that finished before while I still have it. Or if I'm doing a read along, I can maybe do 2 books at once there. It kind of depends on the books I'm reading and the genres, and the format really. If I am reading more than once, I'll try to make sure they're different in some way, or that's different genres or different writing styles, or maybe one's a fiction, one's a non-fiction, or maybe one's on ebook, maybe one's on physical, something like that, just so they're different enough that I won't confuse the two. Lately, for the past month or so, I have been doing 2 and 3 at a time though. When I have dipped back into just one, it feels kind of weird, so I might try doing multiple books going forward just to see if my pace keeps up as it is. If I start this long, then maybe I will go back to one, but I might try multiple books for a while. I am quite enjoying the way it's going. Okay, then moving on to some more tracking and planning kind of things. When it comes to discovering books and adding them to my TBR, I mainly use Goodreads. I think it's a really good way to find new books and to keep track of them. I also use Storygraph, but not quite as much. I think I like that one more for the added stats that comes with it, more than the actual tracking. But I don't need any kind of spreadsheets or charts or reading journals to keep track of and record my time every day or anything like that. I think that's a bit much, and I would never keep up with that. But just updating my stats and Goodreads every day or two when I make progress is good enough for me. And then adding a book to my shelf when I discover one I want to read, I think that works out fairly well. When it comes to my planning for books I'm going to read, it's really I really kind of have a loose plan in my head. There are a lot of books that I really want to get to, which are what I consider more higher priority, versus the ones that I maybe want to read but are more of a lower priority. So I kind of split those into 2 categories. And so just about every month or so, I'll kind of take inventory on the series I'm in the middle of, or if I want to start one, and I'll start with that. And then after that, I'll go into some of the more standalone books, the ones I want to read. It kind of depends on what I have available to me. If I have a copy myself, or if I have an ebook of an older one that I've downloaded, or if I need to check one out from the library. And it depends on the ones that I really want to get to first as well. If there's one that I've really been anxious to read, I'll maybe add that one to the list. Or if there's one that's proper for the time, if there's a scary book I want to read, I'll maybe plug that into October. It also kind of depends on what I've been reading and what I plan to read in the near future. For example, if I just read a Dostoevsky book and I want to read another classic, I probably won't reach for another Russian classic at the time. I'll probably go for something lighter, like a Ray Bradbury, or maybe something different like a Stephen King, just so I'm mixing up the genres a little bit. So that's really just my planning, is I just have a loose TBR I make every month depending on a random sample of books I want to get to. So then going into kind of the genres and kind of the aspects of books I like, I do like reading a lot of classic books, mainly because those are the first ones that I added to my TBR list when I was thinking of books I want to read. Those are more kind of the bucket list items, or most of the older classics, just because they're classics for a reason. Most of them are very, very good. They kind of set the pace for where we are now, and they set the foundation for literature as we know it. And it's important to read those just to get a feel for how things have changed. And I also enjoy a number of them. They often have very poignant themes. The level of writing is also very rich in most cases. Still very enjoyable to read. Whereas the newer books often will be a little more disappointing and hollow. Sometimes they'll just lack poignancy or nuance as compared to the older books. But on a trade-off, they are often quicker to read and easier to read. So if you're looking for something quicker to binge, and a newer book is probably the better way to go. So it's good for a nice change of pace. In terms of what I like, I do like good writing. I don't know if I consider myself a prose snob. Maybe I am, I don't know. I don't really analyze prose much, but I do recognize when there's writing that I like versus writing that I don't. Obviously, very poetic writing is very nice, and I love that kind of stuff. I could read Ray Bradbury every day. That's not always the best option. Sometimes writing that is more concise and to the point is perfect for the story that's being told. Sometimes that's the best way to read it as well. So as far as tone and themes, I like more horror books. I do like reading a lot of horror, more disturbing books. I don't mind when books get dark, when they explore harsher settings or more controversial ideas. I grew up reading and being interested in ghosts and the paranormal, and so I do like the macabre and the disturbing and the depraved. All those kinds of things I do like in my books. That being said, I'm not super into gore or body horror. I will read on occasion and will sometimes like it. That's not usually what I'm looking for in a book. I'm usually more into more psychological horror or atmospheric thrillers, as opposed to freakouts and gore fests. I do like uplifting stories too, now and then, as long as they're genuine and they feel earned. If it's got a good ending, it's pretty much A-OK by me. As far as the length of books I like to read, I can do both. I like shorter books. I also like longer books. I think either one is fine, as long as the length of the book serves the plot. For example, if a longer book kind of meanders for a while and it gets very slow paced, I'm not going to like that. And on the flip side, if a shorter book feels very rushed and incomplete, then I will be unfulfilled by that. So it's got to strike that right balance of developing the story and the narrative and taking the correct amount of time to tell that story and develop the characters or whatever you're developing in the story. without going overboard. But that's really about it. That's all I wanted to talk about in terms of my writing preferences. So I just wanted to talk about a few of these different aspects. So hopefully you got something entertaining out of it or useful. I doubt it, but who knows. Anyways, but if you want to follow along with my reading journey and whatnot, you can feel free to add me on Goodreads or Storygraph. I have both of them linked in the description below. So anyways, thank you for enduring another video. Have a nice day, and some of us like to read dusty old shit. Some of us like the dusty smell. Some of us like to read a Kindle that we carry with. I hope it doesn't cut me off because of storage.